Board Member Dominguez, you are streaming.
Thank you, and good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to the Board of Education Policy Committee meeting. I would like to call this meeting to order. And Dr. Albright, may I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Janella Storga,
Here.
Ronaldo Tomorito,
Here.
Heather Benavides,
Here.
Courtney Jackson,
Here.
Josefina Dominguez.
Here. Our first item for consideration and action is to consider adoption of the September 8th, 2025 Policy Committee meeting agenda. May I have a motion and a second, please?
I move to adopt the September 8th, 2025 Policy Committee meeting agenda. This is Member Jackson.
May I have a second?
I will second.
second.
Board Member
Okay.
Benavides. Sorry, Ronaldo.
Okay, we're ready for a roll call vote, please.
Janella Storga,
Yes.
Ronaldo Tomorito,
Yes.
Heather Benavides,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson,
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes. Our next item for consideration and action is to approve the minutes from the Policy Committee meeting of July 7th, 2025. May I have a motion and a second, please?
I'll move to approve the minutes from the Policy Committee meeting on July 7th, 2025. This is Member Jackson.
I will second Board Member Tomorito.
May I have a roll call vote, please? Dr. Albright.
Janella Storga,
Yes.
Ronaldo Tomorito,
Yes.
Heather Benavides,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson,
Yes.
Josefina Dominguez.
Yes. Next up is our public forum. Comments are limited to the agenda item. I'd like to add that the addition of public comment tonight is a powerful testament to the importance of community engagement. Though policy PB3, public participation at Board of Education meetings, explicitly states that public comment at a committee meeting is at the discretion of the chair, I was not given that discretionary decision. However, I completely agree with that decision to remove gatekeeping language. No one board member or chair should have the discretion to circumvent public comment. In fact, I look forward to the same implementation of the policy to all other committees, including executive committee, ad hoc committees, audit and finance committees. And so with that, I'd like to welcome our public forum guests. When you signed up to speak, you were asked to review rules and expectations, which our presiding officer, I will enforce. The New Mexico Open Meetings Act requires that our agendas specify in advance the items that will be discussed and voted on during the meeting. Therefore, public forum isn't a dialogue among speakers and board members, but rather a chance to hear from our community. We will call participants to speak in the order they signed up. Online guests will stay in a virtual waiting room until it is their turn to speak. We have set aside 45 minutes for public comment. There are currently 23 speakers, and you will each have 1 minute to speak. Once your time is up, you will be asked to quickly wrap up. If you feel unable to convey your message, you may email boarded@aps.edu. And at this time, Mr. Gonzalez will introduce the speakers.
Thank you, Board Member Dominguez. Our first speaker today is going to be Jennifer Gable. Jennifer, you'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking. Give me 1 second to put up the timer, please. Make sure you can see the timer. Can you see the timer, ma'am?
I can, thank you.
When you start speaking, you'll have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for giving us the time to be able to speak this evening. On Friday, I saw that there was an agenda item about a possible, discussion about possible revision about some things involving charter schools. And I'm speaking as a mother and also an employee at a charter school. I'm a huge advocate of charter schools and the movement of charter schools in New Mexico as an opportunity for choice for families and students. Both of my children, who are now in their 20s and getting ready to graduate, one from UNM and one from NMSU, went to different charter schools, starting in kindergarten all the way until they graduated high school, both different charter schools and different from the one that I currently work at. And I'm currently working at South Valley Academy. I've been here for 21 years, love the community, and think we do fantastic work. Just want to voice that, charters are a very important part of APS and an important part of our state in terms of the offerings that we do provide to families. We have a fantastic relationship with APS and the folks that we work with. South Valley Academy does. And I hope that when you're talking about and discussing any kind of revision to policy that involves changes to charter school relationships, that you're taking it in consideration all the great work and great opportunities that charters do provide.
I'm sorry, you've gone over your 1 minute. Can you wrap it up in a very quick sentence, please?
Yep, that is it. So just thank you for the time and just a huge advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is going to be Tim Torski. Tim, are you there?
Oh, I am. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay.
When you begin speaking, you'll have 1 minute.
Right on. So my name is Tim Tokarski. I'm the treasurer of Coral Community Charter School. My son is currently a 7th grade student at Ames, the Albuquerque Institute for Math and Science. Charters serve a vital role in our community. If you limit access, your challenges will only be magnified. Students who are disengaged from the traditional educational model find motivation in an environment that is designed to meet their interest. Whether the arts, trades, healthcare, or other focus, these at-risk students succeed in an alternate model. As an example, according to U.S. News and World Reports, out of over 35,000 public high schools, Ames is ranked number 6th in the nation. Rather than eliminate the opportunity for our community to excel, you should celebrate their success and model best practices. Education is not a zero-sum game. APS does not lose if charters succeed. Limiting access to charters will put students at risk and stand in conflict with your goals and guardrails. At Coral, students begin each day with a recitation of the North Stars: honesty, hard worker, respectful, sacrifice, and protector. These characteristics define integrity. I encourage you to act with integrity in this process, not just for our community, but for our students who thrive in alternate educational models. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Joseph O'Brien. Mr. O'Brien, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Okay. You'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking, okay?
Okay. I can't use my camera. My camera doesn't work.
It's okay. Go without it.
Okay. My name is Joseph O'Brien. I had the opportunity to speak with you 2 years ago about the renewal of Coral Community Charter School's contract. I went to Coral from pre-K to 5th grade, and I am now a 7th grade student at the Albuquerque Institute for Math and Science. I want to thank you for the opportunity to advocate for all charter schools. At Coral, I was challenged in all my academics. Each student had a personal education plan and was provided with an opportunity to be challenged. At Ames, they encourage you to be the best person you can be and are always challenging you to learn. I have many friends who go to other charter schools like Cottonwood Classical, Explore Academy, Moss, and still have friends at Coral Community Charter School. All of my friends are excited to learn and are doing well. Please consider me, my friends, and the nearly 9,000 charter students in APS when considering a change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Our next speaker is Matthew Paul. Matthew, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Sir, you'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
Madam Chair, members of the Policy Committee, my name is Matt Paul. I'm the Executive Director of Public Charter Schools of New Mexico. It was a shock to read the Policy Committee's agenda last week. First, because it doesn't match the tenor and intent from the Board of Education from the past handful to dozen of months. And secondly, because it reads as a blatant attack on charter schools. It's troubling in particular because it goes directly what families want and what's good for students. Charter schools are achieving at consistently higher levels than traditional district schools in reading, math, and science, and most notably with low-income students. And over 70% of New Mexico families have an overwhelmingly positive view of our schools and want more of them, not less. In August, when the Board of Education took up the issue of aligning charter contracts with the district, it was largely met with confusion because you have the mechanisms you need to do this already. However, right now, it appears that that resolution was meant as a Trojan horse to allow the committee to discuss how to eliminate and reduce charter schools as it's presently written in your agenda. I hope today's conversation is consistent with your previous engagement with charter schools, one that supports all students in Albuquerque, regardless of which public school they choose. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Trey Smith. Trey, are you there?
I am there.
You'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Policy Committee. My name is Trey Smith, and I serve as the Executive Director of East Mountain. We've been a charter school for 26 years now, an APS charter school, and we're proud to be one of the highest performing schools in New Mexico. I'd like to take the next 45 seconds to answer 4 of the technical questions raised on the agenda today. So what is the benefit of APS authorization for charters? Well, you get to join a family of schools united by the mission of raising student achievement. And you get access to the state's best authorizing entity, the APS Charter School Office, led by Dr. Joseph Escobedo. What's the benefit to APS of authorizing charter schools? Imagine a portfolio of schools that includes a National Blue Ribbon school, closing achievement gaps for economically disadvantaged students at triple the rate of traditional schools. That's a win for the district and for kids. What is fair language for a moratorium? Well, you simply cannot write fair language for something that isn't fair. Limiting school choice by definition is not equitable or fair. At East Mountain, we will continue to serve all students, no matter if they're on IEP, economically disadvantaged. Every learner who walks through our doors will receive the same level of education. We're excited to collaborate with anyone who wants to actually partner on policies that raise student achievement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Leticia Archuleta.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. You'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Madam Chairman and Chairwoman, as well as all of the APS board members and policy committee. Thank you so much for the time this evening. I just wanted to share a little bit about our charter school. My name is Dr. Leticia Archuleta. I'm the executive director at Health Leadership High School. And I think when we talk about the policy, one of the things that I really want to be able to reflect on is how we can come together as a community to really support students. One thing I know positively and to ensure is that every person that's in this space this evening is focused on what's going to be best for students. And I think that that's really what we need to focus on. When we look at assessments and how we assess student needs as well as charter school needs, we need to be more mindful about what that looks like. Right now, there are 2 particular areas in which we're assessed, one of them being graduation cohort and the other being our NM Vistas, and it's not a true reflection of what we do and how we serve students. So I really hope that tonight and this evening is an opening of a door to be able to come together as a community and work together to support the needs of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dominica Chavez. You'll have 1 minute. Sorry, you'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Dominica Chavez, Advocacy Manager at New Mexico Kids Can. For years, APS has been a strong charter authorizer, approving and renewing quality schools, requiring improvement where needed, and recognizing charters as an essential part of serving families who want options while staying connected to the district. APS charters have created life-changing opportunities for students. from re-engaging those at risk of dropping out to offering unique, one-of-a-kind educational experiences. Today, 1 in 5 APS families chooses an APS charter school. And 82% of New Mexicans believe parents deserve more public school options. Families are telling you what matters most, the ability to choose the school that works for their child. Reducing these options would limit those voices and their choices. We urge you instead to continue viewing charters as partners in serving families who want meaningful options while remaining part of the APS family. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lisa, I believe it's Meyer? Lisa Meyer?
So close. Myri.
Myri, sorry. You'll have 1 minute once you'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
It's a Norwegian name. It's not very common.
Oh, okay.
I'm Lisa Myri. I'm director at Digital Arts and Technology Academy, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for this opportunity to speak today. But I'm not promoting our school, but promoting what's best for students, families, and our community. Charter schools play an important role in enhancing educational opportunities for families across Albuquerque. They help ensure that students and families have meaningful options when seeking an educational experience that meets their unique needs, interests, and passions. We view our school, Data, as a valuable partner with APS in this work, expanding access and creating a more robust and diverse educational landscape for families within our city. Policies that place a moratorium on new charter schools or that seek to reduce existing schools through attrition harm the quality of education for all families. Limiting choice restricts opportunities for students, undermines innovation, and works against the goal of building a stronger and more responsive educational system in Albuquerque. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Zane Rosette. And you'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking, sir.
All right, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the Policy Committee. I appreciate you allowing me to come on. I'm going to start off in my native language. Tanse Neo Kiksefaya Zen Rosette Nasiga Soon, Native American Community Academy, NIA. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zane Rosette. I'm the Executive Director of the Native American Community Academy. We're a public charter school here in the Albuquerque public school system. And I'm here to express my strong opposition to any policy that seeks to reduce the number of public charter schools in Albuquerque. Charter schools, including NACA, are not a threat to public education. We are public education. We're filling critical gaps in the system, providing high quality, culturally sustaining education for students who are not fully served in their neighborhood schools. NACA is nationally recognized as a model for Indigenous education, supporting academic achievement, cultural identity, and wellness. Our students graduate at higher rates, attend college, and return to the community as leaders. We should all be celebrating these outcomes, not seeking to reduce them. Over 20% of Albuquerque students attend charter schools, and so the demand is there. Families want choice. They deserve the right to find the school where their student can thrive. I, on behalf of our community, urge you to reject any proposal that would decrease public charter school options, instead working with us to ensure we're getting better within Albuquerque public school systems. Appreciate you in the work that you do and listening to me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Edward, I believe it's Kwan.
Correct. Thank you.
So you have 1 minute when you begin speaking. Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you. No problem. Hello, my name is Edward Kwan, and I'm a parent of a charter school student. My daughter goes to Native American Community Academy. I'm also an employee at McKinley Middle School, the educator there. And I strongly oppose any policy aimed at reducing the number of public charter schools in Albuquerque. Charter schools like NACA are meeting the needs that APS has not met, and they are helping students achieve academically and culturally. NACA, like Mr. Rosette said, is nationally recognized for its innovative approach to education, rooted in Indigenous knowledge, language, and wellness. It has changed lives and created a model of success that is respected across the country. Reducing charter school options would harm families who rely on schools like NACA and help their children thrive. So please ask you to protect charter schools and the students they serve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Lori Webster. Ma'am, you'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity tonight to make public comment. My name is Lori Webster. I am the director at Mountain Mahogany Community School, an APS authorized charter school. Mountain Mahogany has been authorized by APS for 20 years, and we have a long history of mutual cooperation and learning with the district. I ask APS to recognize the work being done by charter schools in our community and to honor the intent of the charter school law. Charter schools should be authorized based on the merit of their application and monitored in accordance with their contract. APS should not be adopting policies that limit the development of charter schools or seek to reduce the number of existing charter schools. All charter school students are public school students, and we all share the responsibility for their success and should be working together to make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Miller Mahela, I believe.
Miller Malay, thank you.
Malay. Okay, you have 1 minute once you begin speaking, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and APS Policy Committee members. My name is Miller Malay, a senior at East Mountain High School in Sandia Park, and I, for one, love my charter school. I am a strong advocate for them and all other charter schools in New Mexico. I've been lucky to attend a charter school for the past 4 years and feel that the ability of school choice has benefited me and my peers greatly. My charter school has given me so many opportunities, and a moratorium on charter schools would deny that to so many students. Now, I'd like to pose 3 main reasons to why the context of a moratorium would be unfair and restrictive to students and families. So first of all, it limits parents and students' choice. Families looking for alternatives might feel that they are denied options, which is extremely unfair. Along with this unequal treatment, so existing charters can operate for their allotted time before renewal, but new or seeking renewal charters are shut out, which just seems blatantly unfair. And finally, freezing innovation. This moratorium has the potential to prevent new models of programs from emerging, even if there's a strong community demand for them. Not just myself, but the whole student body at my charter school has been positively impacted by the innovation, collaboration, and dedication to a quality education that East Mountain strives to provide to every single student. A moratorium would only restrict that access to quality education for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Todd Noose.
Close. Todd Nouse. Thank you so much.
Todd Nouse. You have 1 minute, sir.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair Dominguez and the members of the Policy Committee. My name is Todd Nouse. I'm the head of school of New Mexico International School. We are a APS charter school in our 15th year, and I will actually be in front of you in about 2 months asking for a renewal of our charter with you. We're very proud members of this community. We were originally charters in the PEC, and we sought reauthorization after our first term because of the community that was available, community of leadership that was provided by APS, and we've been very proud members since then. So I urge you to not take any action that's going to jeopardize the development of future charters. It's hard to add to what's already been said, but New Mexico is constantly on the list of bottom all over the place. We're the bottom of this, we're the bottom of that, but not in our charter school law. That's where New Mexico shines, and I think we want to promote that, and I think APS should be helping promote that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Stephanie Bianaris. Stephanie, are you there?
Yes, that's Stephanie Bianaris. It's also a strange last name. Good try.
You'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the committee members. My name is Stephanie Bianaris. I'm a mother of 4 children who have all benefited from APS charter schools, and I currently serve as a governance council member at their school. So I understand the need and the desire to be fiscally responsible when it comes to educating our students. But if it were not for the charter schools and APS, my 4 students would have otherwise been educated in a private school setting or possibly homeschooled. And I know that, as Mr. Paul said earlier, over 70% of Albuquerque residents feel the same. They want more access, not less. I am one of those parents, and the school I serve consistently has a wait list of families eager for a place for their own students. I'm requesting that the board not consider a moratorium on APS charter school growth. On the contrary, you were all elected to lead with a vision for a better educational future for all of Albuquerque. Instead of canceling charter schools that have seen growth and success, or hindering new charter schools from taking root in a soil ripe for innovation, I, among other constituents, urge you to further support and encourage the growth of school choice through APS charter schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is James Nessel. Mr. Nessel, are you there?
I did unmute myself. I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good, sir. I can hear you now. You'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
I am the school board chairman for El Camino Real Academy, charter school in the South Valley. I've been an experienced board member for over 20 years. I have had unfortunate experiences with this charter authorizer. I remind all of you, you are governed by state law. I have already been up in Santa Fe when Santa Fe Public Schools and APS tried to place upon charter schools a law limiting and putting a moratorium, and it failed. The reason it failed is it violates the charter law. I suggest board members on this board review the law for themselves. Talk to Art Melendres. He knows what he's talking about if he's not afraid of telling you the truth. I suggest you reconsider your intended action.
Thank you, sir. All right, our next speaker is Julia Rivera Tapia.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Public Policy Committee. My name is Julia Rivera Tapia, and I'm proud to be an educator with over 20 years of experience. I'm also the mother of 3 remarkable children who are all on IEPs. For 15 of my 20 years in education as a teacher, instructional coach, and administrator, I have worked in charter schools because I believe in the powerful impact these institutions can have on students. Charter schools are often crucial for children who learn differently. It is vital to recognize that charter schools offer high-quality education and specialized programming that is accessible to all families, not just those with significant financial resources. This level of inclusivity ensures that every child, regardless of their background, has the opportunity to reach their full potential. I urge you to support and protect Albuquerque's charter schools. Implementing moratoriums or reducing the number of charter schools contradicts the aspirations of countless families and students who depend on the unique opportunities that these schools offer. Together, let's advocate for an educational landscape where every child can thrive, supported by the tailored learning experiences that charter schools provide. Your commitment to this cause can make a profound difference in the lives of many. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Virginia Demeron.
Hello, thank you. Yeah, Virginia Dameron. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Thank you, members of the board. Yeah, I'll get started. I echo what other charter school parents and leaders have said in support. I have 2 children who have been involved with Native American Community Academy, ACE Leadership High School, and Tierra Adentro, all award-winning programs. I would also like to say, I think charter schools can be a supportive and successful, as other parents have said, environment for students who learn differently. I have one son with an IEP, so I've seen this firsthand, the smaller environment, the more personal attention from the teachers. This can really, especially for children who learn differently or who have different interests, this can be the key that unlocks educational success for these kids. And if there's changes that need to be made, I would encourage the policy committee to lean into ways that you can expand collaboration for students with disabilities with charter schools. There is understandable concerns in the current federal voucher atmosphere that charter schools will weaken districts, but I would say no, the charter schools are gems here in Albuquerque. You can lean into this. They are your strengths, and they can help you serve children with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lauren Scott.
Hello, good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Lauren Scott, and I am a teacher at Mountain Mahogany Community School, which is an APS authorized charter school entering its 20th year. I'm speaking on the agenda item discussing these revisions to charter schools authorization. I believe that traditional and charter schools can thrive alongside each other. As a teacher who has worked for both, there are many times when I've used ideas and methods from either model. For example, I first used Advantage Math when I worked at an APS school, and I pushed for the same training at my charter school. I'm also currently part of an innovative outdoor learning program with teachers from traditional APS schools, and we have a lot to learn from each other. I believe that students will benefit most when we spend time learning and collaborating with each other rather than spending time trying to restrict one model. Tonight, I urge you to consider what opportunities charters can give students and how we can work together to increase student achievement. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Lauren Micklejohn. Lauren, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Sorry, it took me a minute to get my stuff together.
That's all right. You'll have 1 minute once you begin speaking.
Excellent. Thank you. Good evening, members of the policy committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight. I really wanted to lift up what Leticia Archuleta said earlier, and also Lauren Scott. I have 3 great kids in traditional APS schools, and for the most part, we've been really happy with that. And I think partially because my kids really get to see a really broad cross-section of everybody that lives in Albuquerque. And I think that we have been given a really great community perspective on what it's like when you build community in your neighborhood schools and around your neighborhood schools. And that has been such a benefit to me. And when I see all these charter schools really are an important part of our system, but also, it's disappointing to see how many kids are having to be driven all the way across town to get to school. And it seems like in some ways that it is breaking down our neighborhood schools and our neighborhood communities. And I think that's something that we've had a little bit of a struggle with. The other thing I want to say is that in being at a smaller elementary school, there's been quite a bit of pressure on our school to market our school as though they have to sell their services. And I feel like this just does not really benefit our school community to have to feel like they're competing in a marketplace. And public school is public. It shouldn't feel like we're running a business and trying to market our wares to encourage more people and more students to attend our public schools. So thank you. Excuse me for going over time.
Thank you. Board Chairman Dominguez, I believe that concludes public forum. And you're on mute, ma'am.
Thank you. And thank you to all who spoke tonight. I think I hear the passion and the concern, and I think together we can meet the challenges that school board members have to face in executing their fiscal responsibilities, among other things. So I look forward to more conversation. Let's see. We're going to move on to a discussion item, which includes the first read of tribal consultation policy. And let me get to my notes here. So the background to this tribal consultation, which has been a long time coming, the board approved the recommendation of a new policy at the August 6, 2025 Board of Education meeting. This discussion will be a first read of the tribal consultation policy to establish a government-to-government relationship with input from tribal leaders. The policy chair, myself, has recommended an addition to Section 4J of the APS Board of Education Governance Manual. Administration has provided support documentation for the discussion, outlining 3 options to include the requested language. We either create a new policy, we suggest that the current draft be a revision to the APS Board of Education Governance Manual, Section 4J, or the revision be added to board, or a revision be done to Board Policy IH9. Administration recommends the requested language be included in the existing Board Policy IH9. And so that is part of the discussion and part of moving forward tonight. And so with that, I'm hoping everybody did her homework. I think at least a couple of us have worked so hard on this in over a year and a half. So I'm eager to hear from others. And so with that, I open it up for discussion.
I can start, Chair Member Dominguez.
Thank you.
Of course, I completely agree that this is long overdue and there is a need for language about tribal consultation, especially in Albuquerque Public Schools, and we have so many different students who come from different tribes around the city, around the state, you know. One thing that I have heard from community is that in order for us to fully be transparent with language about tribal consultation, then we need to do what we're asking and provide more consultation on this policy with our Native and Indigenous parents and leaders. So that's one thing that I did want to put on the table is, although I support this and the language and I support putting it in the policy, I believe it was IH9 that was stated, I do hear that we need some more guidance when it comes to our tribal leaders. I also do want to ask if we have heard anything from PED, because I know that they are also working on their own language when it comes to tribal consultation. So I'll ask the team that and wanted to just uplift what I've heard.
So thank you for pointing out all of that. I should have, let me go back and give you all history. We have met with tribal leaders. We went to the government meeting in July and handed out this language. And keep in mind that this language is high level. What remains to be done is drafting the procedures. And it's in the procedures where the nuts and bolts of the details around tribal consultation will surface. So we can have the high level language. The steps after this implementation would be meeting with tribes about those details. And so that'll happen as soon as we hear from PED. Both board member Tom Morito and I met with, and I'm going to have to call him by his first name because I forget how to pronounce his second name. Damian Orziski. He is executive director and assistant to the assistant secretary of Indian Education, Juanico. And so we did run this by both of them. We had a productive conversation. And so, you know, I asked them if there was anything that was egregious here. And she said no, and looks forward to us being leaders in this effort, an effort that she's trying to implement at the state level. We also gave it, remind me, board member Tom Morito, did we share this with President Nigrin and a staff member when we went to Window Rock with the students? I thought we left him a copy.
I think I think it was with Mr. Roy Tracy.
Okay.
And his team. And they were going to also I think Matthew So was another individual in the
Right.
legislative area of law. And then also one of the, I think it was also with the Board of Education for Navajo. There was a member there.
I've also shared it with a few executive directors of Indian education at Isleta for sure, and Sandia. And so, I mean, we're going to continue to talk with these leaders. Here are the challenges. To my knowledge, the Indian Parent Education Committee is not meeting because we don't have an executive director of Indian education. So the chair is waiting for the district to move toward convening them. However, before we lost that position, or the person in that position, we did share this at, was it May or April? Yes. So I've also contacted the U.S. Department of Education, Julian Guerrero. He's had input on this. The policy analyst for the National Indian Education Association has had input. So it's been a year and a half, and I think it's been a very deliberate process. Having said that, I recognize that I'm confident that this high-level language is as fine-tuned as it can be, minus conversations here tonight. Again, the procedures would be the next step. And that's where we would have to meet with tribal leaders or their designees to hash out how they see consultation being meaningful, effective, timely, etc. So, sorry about that. I should have included that history earlier.
Board Member Dominguez, I'm happy to jump in if
Yes. Go ahead, Board Member
that's
Jackson.
all right. Okay, so a few things. First, I think first of all, let me start with this. I believe that unequivocally, we need to support our Native American students. I believe, are doing that through the use of our inclusion of Native American students in our goals. They are our overwhelming focus in our policies. And so I think we are absolutely acknowledging our responsibility and working towards our responsibility towards our Native American students. And I believe that we as a board and we as a district are diligently maintaining that effort to work in support of the Yazzie Martinez decision to support those students. I do have a few concerns about this policy, the policy recommendations. They are similar to what I stated before, but I will take this opportunity to restate them. The first is similar to what Board Member Astorga was mentioning, and that is that we are within the policy that we already have, the IPP policy that we already have, the Indian parent group and the tribal leaders are the ones that are supposed to bring forth the request for change to any policy. It's not the district and it's not the board that is supposed to make that request. And to support that, I direct you to PJ 29, our Indian Policies and Procedures policy that we have. On the first page, it states that when the data indicates that Native American students might not be participating on an equal basis or are maybe not making progress, the Indian Parent Committee and the tribal leaders will recommend a plan to the APS superintendent or board, or will make suggestions to the APS superintendent or board to modify the educational programs or provide services. I will also direct you to that same argument to policy 4, procedure 4 within the IPP that states the Albuquerque Public School District will modify the IPP if necessary. The procedure for that is then that the changes to the IPP will be agreed upon by the district, tribal leaders of the impacted 11 communities, tribal education directors, the Indian Education Committee, the Indian Parent Committee, and the District Indian Education Department. All of those entities have to agree before a change is brought forth. Then those changes, once there is agreement, then it comes to the Albuquerque Public Schools Board of Education during a duly scheduled meeting in which we have the opportunity to review and discuss the modifications. So a question that I have for, I don't know, is Ms. Campos on, or should I direct it to you, Dr. Blakey?
You can direct it to me. She's not on.
Okay, so a question that I have is, have all of those entities that are listed in the current policy that we have to be working under right now, have those entities requested a change or a modification?
Madam Chair, Board Member Jackson, to my knowledge, there hasn't been a formal request for a change from the groups that you mentioned.
Okay. So essentially, the way I read that is that we're now trying to create a new policy on tribal consultation without actually having any tribal consultation. So that's the first thing that strikes me. The second thing that strikes me, which I just mentioned, is a procedural, that we do not have a new policy, which means that we have to currently be working under the policy that we have. And the policy that we have says that all of those entities have to agree, those entities have to request it, and then it is brought to the Board of Education. So we're already violating the current policies that we have. Another thing that strikes me is that there actually are opportunities for the Board of Education members to participate. And again, I will direct you to the current policy under policy 1. There's an entire list of opportunities that board members can attend under policy 1. I will read them. There's the APS Indian Parent Committee monthly meeting, the APS Indian Education Committee quarterly meeting, the APS Board of Education public hearing in the fall. There are the Tribal Leaders Consultation Summits, one that happens in the fall and one that happens in the spring, the monthly Impact Aid and IPP meetings, and the Impact Aid public hearing during the fall. So another question that I have, Dr. Blakey, is can board members attend and participate in all of these opportunities that are already presented within the policy that we have?
Yes.
And do you think, to your knowledge, or just kind of based on your experience, if board members were to attend, would that give an opportunity for meaningful collaboration?
Yes, so we could, in tribal consultation, add a board specific consultation if that is what you're requesting.
I think it's a good request, right? Because it seems like there's an opportunity that some board members feel like they're not having the opportunity for meaningful collaboration, but opportunities are there. Maybe we just didn't know they were there. And so it would be good for us, us to show up. The next thing that concerns me a little bit about some of the language is the use of sovereign to sovereign nation. I am almost certain that that is incorrect and slightly disrespectful to the tribes, to the nations, to put the board and the district on the same level as a sovereign nation. The APS district and the Board of Education, we are not sovereign nations. And to include that language, I believe, is disrespectful to the government status that the tribes have. So at the very de minimis, that language needs to be struck. In the same vein, I will repeat the statement that I made that the board is not the local education agency. The APS school district is the local education agency. And according to the New Mexico Indian Education Act, Section 22-23A-1, it is the Albuquerque Public Schools district that is responsible for any action between the local tribes. And so I wonder if this policy language is a potential violation of statute. My next point of concern is directly to the language, the proposed language. All of that language is already included in the IPP. And I will take this opportunity to say where I think that is. So the first sentence that starts with the Per Every Student Success Act, that language is already listed in the preamble. Is already listed in the preamble, the statement that the 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs before the attestations. The next sentence that starts the APS Board of Education, all of that language is very similar to what is already listed in Policy 1. For example, the proposed language is to include but not limited to resolutions, initiatives, memorandums of understanding. But in Policy 1, it already says Albuquerque Public Schools will disseminate relevant applications, evaluations, program plans, and information. And then it has an entire list of materials that will be disseminated. So we're being a little redundant with language that is already included and under which we are already working. The next sentence, therefore, to promote positive outcomes for Native American students, that language is also highlighted again, both in Policy 1, Procedure 1, as well as Policy 2. There's actually a huge list on page 2. The next sentence, the APS Board of Education further commits to engage in meaningful collaboration. That is listed in Policy 3, where it says the Albuquerque Public Schools District will annually assess. I would actually make the argument that we are assessing monthly because of our goals, but will annually assess the extent to which Native American children participate. Then there's also the district will review school educational data and evaluation with Pueblo governors and other appropriate tribal officials in parent advisory committee meetings and other forums, ... So that language is already present. And I already made my point about the sovereign nations. I think three more points. I don't know if you guys had a chance yet to look at your email, but we did just recently receive an email from the Native Leadership Collective of Albuquerque, making very similar points to what I have just stated, that before a policy of this sort is adopted, the board should engage in the very sort of consultation it is calling for. The board has not included enough Native voices in this process to make this type of change and has not clearly demonstrated why the current consultation process needs to be changed. So that is coming from, you know, a group that is representative of the students that we are attempting to help. Second to last thing that I will say is I'm a little concerned about the statements that were made by the chair before we started about the fact that you have been spending a year working on a policy that was not authorized by the board. We know that our governance manual says that we are supposed to work as a board, and it sounds as though you have been working on policies that were not board authorized. And so that causes some concern for me because I know that if the shoe was on the other foot, you would probably be concerned if I was out doing the same thing. So that causes me a little bit of concern that something was happening without the board's knowledge. So finally, I think based on, especially based on the Native Leadership Collective of Albuquerque letter that just came in, I would request that we table this discussion until we are able to robustly and in alignment with the policy that we have, consult with the tribes and the urban indigenous leaders and educators. The next tribal consultation is coming up in October, and I think that that is our opportunity to actually have this conversation with them. And more importantly, listen to what their voice says and decipher whether or not there is a real need for a change in this policy, or if this is just a few of us thinking that something needs to happen without true tribal voice. So that's all I have to say about that.
Board Member Jackson. Any responses?
I want to say something, Ronaldo Marito, board member. I think many times this discussion, and I'm glad that we are wanting to pursue tribal consultation and the voices of tribes. And I'm glad we're having discussion because I can tell you forthrightly that we've never had this. And I know Courtney states she disagrees with that sovereign to sovereign piece in the proposed policy. But that's not the issue of us, the school district, being sovereign to sovereign. We're talking about the relationships between tribes, that we will honor those relationships and we will not interfere. And I think that that's been misconstrued in this whole conversation. The other thing is that I understand the input of the leaders of our community, because I know a lot of those leaders. I know what they stand for, and I know that sometimes these issues only become the forefront when we think that there's an attack. But there is not an attack. And the thing about this, and I don't want people to also pursue, based on Courtney's words, that we did and we did all of these things beforehand in presenting a policy. It was not that way. There were conversations that were had. Because the one thing that happened with this proposed policies, there were strong actions taken against one member for taking the initiative to do and to speak for that concern. But now we're sitting here, and I hope we do consider those voices of tribes. And I hope moving forward, we do that every time, because I know PED is going to propose budget reviews and a lot more areas to concern consultation for for our, for us pursuing a number of these initiatives that do include Native children. So we are going to have to step up to the plate. And that's what PED is going to bring forth. And so I'm aware of what we're trying to do, but I also know, based on comments from the last board meeting, is that we weren't ready. When are we going to be ready? And it's sad to me when I hear, especially from the board meeting previously, that this was an agenda item from 2 board members. And I still draw offense to that, and people around may not, because the thing about it is you are not Native American. You do not know the atrocities. You do not understand tribal leadership. When I sit in those meetings to ask you whether we fully engage meaningfully, we do not. And it's not true. We sit at those meetings and just say yes and listen, but we have no idea what's going on. And that irritates me. And it irritates me to the point where meaningful is not even considered to be true and just for this particular community and group. So yes, I am at the place where I do want to hear tribes. I do want to hear their voices, and I do want to hear the city also. But I know that people feel like they're being attacked, and that's not the issue. And I would hope that on this board, significantly, that we look, what are these conversations, and are we really having the meaningful conversations? Because I can tell you, as a Native American board member sitting on this board, we don't have it. I'm sorry to have to tell you. And being and working in Indian Ed and Indian education and special education, I really draw offense to many things that we're doing. And I'm sorry I have to say that. And I do want to state, we do need to go to tribes. We do need to go to leaders. And that's probably the first step we need to do. And I hope we do that in every account, and we honor what Courtney just said. We honor those policies. But I can tell you, we don't. And that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
If I may.
Yes. Thank you, Board Member Tomorito and Board Member Ramos, Historia Ramos.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say that this is exactly why I voted in the last board meeting to bring this back to the policy committee, because we need these types of conversations. And just to echo the sentiment of Board Member Tomorito, we might have language somewhere in documents about tribal consultation or Native American children or tribes in general, but working within the education system, I know firsthand that we need to repeat it as much times as we can, because it doesn't always come forth, or it doesn't always mean that because we have language in the certain policy or procedure that the work is getting done. Hence why Yazi Martinez was created, right? And why the lawsuit stands is because we know that the district has not been doing that work. And yes, I agree that we have those populations in our goals and guardrails, but that does not mean that within the system of education, our Native American students, our Indigenous students, our ESL students are actually getting the necessary tools that they need to be able to thrive within education. So that's one of the reasons why I do support this tribal consultation, is because we have to be committed in a way that's systematic, and not just because there's one policy that means that that's what this is. And by doing more and having these conversations, not only within board members, but with community, with other tribal leaders, that's going to happen one way or another, right? We're going to be able to understand through procedures, through systematic change, through even cultural and social change, that these conversations are happening, that these policies and procedures are actually known. So thank you, Member Jackson, for bringing these to our knowledge. For all of the members that are community members that are listening, that's what we need to hear, right? We need to hear that we do have language somewhere where this might be happening, but because we have to bring it up again, obviously it's not working. So I just wanted to echo that what Board Member Tomorito is saying is that we have to do more. Just because it's written down doesn't mean that it's actually happening. And hopefully that came across how it was meant to be said in my head. But thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Astorga Ramos. Board Member Benavides, do you have anything to add?
I do. Thank you, Chair Dominguez, and thank you all for your very meaningful contributions this evening, especially Board Member Tomorito. It's very touching to hear you speak so passionately about something that you know about that none of us really do. And so I appreciate your perspective and I support you 100%. And I want to kind of expand on and ask for additional support from the Native community. You said that we should be having these conversations. And so I'm curious, what can we do, or have we reached out to the communities to ask them to please come and speak at public comment and to give us input on how they feel about these proposed changes?
So I cringe a little bit when I hear, invite them to public comment, because that's not the place for a tribal leader. In fact, what has become very clear to me in talking to Native leaders, tribal leaders, is this. And it was helpful to hear Board Member Jackson go through all our policies, because it underscored something for me. It is exactly that point. Tribal leaders are looking for a shift in framing the conversation. Everything that was listed, all the policies, they are dictated by the district. What tribal leaders are wanting is they want to shift that power relationship. And by the way, sovereign to sovereign nation was a term I had never heard in my life until a tribal leader approached me and asked me. And I was embarrassed because he asked me, Board Member Dominguez, how are you going to honor sovereign to sovereign nation relationships? And I told him, forgive my ignorance, but I have no idea what that means. He said, you're an elected leader. And that's a very different position than the superintendent. As an elected leader, you make policy, and that policy impacts sovereign nations. So you're a sovereign by the very fact that you're elected. And so we want access to you as an elected official. We should have direct access. And that point was driven home for me when Board Member Tomorito joined the board. And what she found was that we had approved a resolution that had bypassed tribal leaders. And so I took that resolution to a National Indian Education Association and asked for input. And it was the South Dakota Educational Cooperative. They are a cooperative of tribal leaders and urban leaders. And they pointed out that the very reason you need a tribal consultation policy that is at the governance level, not at the administrative level, is because you want to avoid passing a resolution exactly like this one that circumvents tribal leaders entirely. So while the intention was good, and I voted for it, the intention was good, but I had an incomplete understanding of what we were doing with that resolution. And so this tribal consultation for the board hopes to prevent that from happening ever again. I don't know if that answered your question, but Board Member Benavides, yes.
It did, thank you. And so I apologize if I phrased it incorrectly about inviting people to speak at public comment. But hearing input is always helpful when we're making these decisions. There's very strong emotion and there's lots of history here, and we want to make sure we do it right and meaningfully, and we never want to offend anybody. And so that being said, I'm wondering if we have just a few minutes to go through very quickly each draft proposed, and maybe you can just walk us through what you are proposing and what the possible ramifications are. That way we can kind of move the conversation along and get to some kind of resolution, whatever that may be.
Okay,
And
so
not to rush anybody, but I would really love to hear your perspective on the changes, proposed changes.
you know, I'm only seeing, I think what I'm seeing here is that there's only one draft of language. It's a question of where do we want to place it? Is it a new policy, or do we incorporate it? I mean, I'm not quite sure why we ended up with PJ 29, other than that it's Indian policies and procedures, but this is administrative. And again, it doesn't change the paradigm. And that's what tribal leaders are looking for. They don't want to be dictated to, they want to set the parameters themselves. And so I did see that we have IH9. If you're looking at IH9, please, then I can share with you some changes that I would suggest to IH9. And they begin with the second paragraph. The Board of Education will foster, first of all, get rid of a cooperative partnership because they want more than that. It will foster relationships with tribal leaders, and I would add, again, sovereign to sovereign nation relationships with tribal leaders, and maintain not you don't see two-way communication in any, I don't hear that kind of language in any of the conversations from tribes. So I'm not quite sure what we would do there. Maintain, I would say, tribal consultation with tribal governments whose jurisdictional boundaries include areas within the Albuquerque Public Schools boundaries. That might need to change because I have questions about that. What do we mean by jurisdictional boundaries? Because the Jicarilla nations are not within our jurisdictional boundaries, are they, or are they? And then include areas within the Albuquerque Public School boundaries. Well, we've grown out of that language. It's no longer that. We're more, if you'll notice, in the new language, I reference Navajo Nation, the 19 Pueblos, and the Apache Nation's tribal leaders. So that last sentence might need reworking. I mean, about the only thing that we can keep there is in accordance with state and federal law. And let me just remind everyone that even though ESSA has been around for quite a while, we have violated it miserably. And I think what I have learned over a year and a half of conversations and research is that tribes want access to the table of power, and we represent that. And they want very direct access. So, yes, Board Member Benavides.
I apologize. I'm not going to keep monopolizing the conversation, but I just.
No, go ahead. Your
Thank you.
questions are good.
Thank you. So this is just a point of clarification, and I'm not sure if anybody else has the same question, but when I was reviewing the draft and specific to IH9, what it looks to me is that the only real change is the red text saying tribal consultation before the APS Board of Education's approval. I could be incorrect in that, but what you are referring to, Chair Dominguez, is changes to the second paragraph, significant changes, in fact, and those don't exist in the draft. And so can you please clarify exactly what we're evaluating in this particular draft?
Well, I mean, if one of the choices, again, we're either adopting a brand new policy, or we are incorporating that language into the IH9 Indian education policy. However, we would have to change other language in that policy to bring it up to date. So I don't know what the implications of that are for the purpose of moving this forward, because this needs to move forward. So I'm open to guidance from the superintendent or our policy analyst.
Ms. Martinez getting on.
Go, Dr. Baker, are you going to?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Chair Dominguez and Member Benavides. Member Benavides, to your question about why there's two colors, the blue and the red, the blue paragraph that is present in all of the documents, IH9, the governance manual, and the standalone new policy, is the proposed language that we received from Chair Dominguez. And she, and it looks like inadvertently language was left out, which is the red language, the tribal consultation before. So we added that in because it was an addition to the first batch of language that we were sent. I hope that helps.
It does. Thank you very much.
Board Member Astorga Ramos.
Yes, I just had a clarifying question as well. If we were to adopt it into IH9, would that mean that we would have to create a whole new draft tonight, correct? So we would be approving not this draft, but a whole new draft so that we can include your comments about that second paragraph?
I believe so. I think so. I think it would slow down the process. Is that right? Policy Analyst Martinez?
Madam Chair, Member Astorga, can you restate your question, please, Member Astorga? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
If we decide to place this new draft policy under IH9, hearing the recommendations that the Board Chair Dominguez has proposed to also change language in that second paragraph of IH9, so not just the draft that was proposed, but additional language, we would have to come back to the table and approve that new recommendation.
Ooh, that's a good question. I believe that because this is what I think, because it's a revision to an existing policy, the blue language is the proposal that's on the table. If this committee decides that they want to recommend other revisions, they're able to do that if they'd like.
And so then the whole thing would move forward to the 30-day public feedback. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So if we were in agreement that we needed to delete a cooperative partnership and make that will foster sovereign to sovereign nations relationships with tribal leaders and maintain tribal consultation with tribal governments but see, it gets dicey after governments whose jurisdictional boundaries include areas within. I don't think that applies anymore because we've grown. I think we'd have to stop with after tribal consultation with tribal governments, with the tribes listed below, something like that, or reiterate, name, borrow from that sentence below. Navajo Nation, the 19 Pueblos, and the Apache Nation's tribal leaders or their designees. Oh, and we'd have to include as well as pertinent indigenous urban leaders before approving proposed policies. This part, and again, I hesitate to call it a cooperative partnership because that's not how leaders see it. Yeah. The sovereign to sovereign nation relationship will foster an agreement between the tribes, APS, Indian education policies and procedures in accordance with state and federal law. Those would be my suggested edits. So yes, Board Member Astorga Ramos.
Yes, I just wanted to raise what Board Member Jackson had recommended about a meeting in October where we potentially have a space where tribal leaders are coming together. We may be able to work with them on some of this language, since we do want to include and be, make sure that we're using the correct language, especially stating how you're talking about going outside of Albuquerque Public Schools boundaries, which I think we have students who may not fall within the tribal boundaries of APS, so I think that would be good. But I do wanted to uplift Member Jackson, if you wanted to just bring that back up and remind me what date and meeting that was, we could potentially figure out a time that works.
Madam Chair, Board Member Astorga, I can help with that. The fall tribal consultation is October 6th, and the Indian Parent Committee meeting is September 18th.
So in my mind, what I was thinking is if this goes to the 30-day public comment or revision, that would be a good chance for the tribal consultation leaders to come together and review this so that they have input and we're actually, making sure that all voices are at the table.
I don't know. How do you feel about that, Board Member Tomorito? I mean, we did talk to tribal leaders at the government to government meeting in July.
Well, I think to be a little more direct, because we do have something in front of us to give them, that we're able to have those discussions and get input. And to do it at the government to government meeting gives you a great opportunity to have many tribal leaders there. Because the thing you're going to face come December is the switchover for the Pueblo governors. Those won't be there. Those governors will be exited out for a new governorship in January. So I think that would be a great time. And I also think that the parent committee meeting September 18th would also be give us the time to present and also talk to them. But also we need to, I know what was mentioned too was PED. We're supposed to hear from them anytime soon. So that's another piece. I don't know, because I know that their policy, not their policy, but I don't know if it's a policy recommendation, is
It's
gonna,
procedures. It's going to be
yeah,
procedures.
it's gonna be more in depth because I know when we went to the last government to government meeting and attended the presentation with Secretary Waki, I can't say her name, but Juanico, that she gave all of the steps in how that was going to be included. And board members were mentioned, and how that was going to look was based on all of those particular areas, the budget, high school graduation, and being involved with the whole, I keep forgetting the word, not accommodations. What is it called? Not recommendations, but I'll get it in a little while. But yeah, it was going to take on a whole new revision of how tribal consultation was going to be included within various aspects of the governance of how we do things for tribes.
And Madam Chair, members of the committee, PED did have until September 5th that tribal leaders could give feedback on it before they gave our guidance. So we expect that now that they have that closed on Friday, so probably in the next couple of weeks, we'll receive the guidance that Board Member Tomorito is referring to from PED. And they did mention that it would have guidance for school boards as well in that new guidelines from PED.
I just want to remind us that this language is high level language. It does not, it just says that we will honor tribal consultation and that we understand that it's a government to government relationship. That's all it's saying. The details are exactly what would be helpful to flesh out at the October 6th meeting. Because if we don't move forward with a draft tonight to present for consideration. And keep in mind, the second reading isn't going to happen until November anyway. So we can still approve a first reading, take that to the government to government meeting on October 6th. And that way we can get some feedback and then have the second reading in November and hopefully get approval by the second, before November ends. And that is my strong recommendation, that we have a tribal consultation policy by November, which requires us to leave tonight with language, a first read language. So, if we want to, I think the cleanest way to do this would be to revise IH9 and update the language to reflect what tribes are saying now, what tribal leaders are using now. With a few edits, easy edits to that second paragraph. Board Member Jackson.
So my question is this. You just stated to use language that all tribal leaders are using. However, we have not spoken to all tribal leaders. You have spoken to a few. Some of us have spoken to none. We, as a board, we have to remember that we have to work as a board, not as individuals. We as a board have not spoken with all tribal leaders. So it seems a little putting the cart before the horse to create something that a tribal consultation policy when we have not spoken with all tribal leaders. I think that we are doing this in violation of the current policies and procedures that we have. I really hope that all of us have read through the very, very robust PJ 29 Indian policies and procedures that outlines the federal regulations, the state statutes. This policy, these policies and procedures are not the district telling the tribes how to act. There are attestations and notations to federal law throughout this entire document. This is law. This is what is required. It's not the district telling the tribal leaders what to do. So I just want to restate, I'm concerned about bringing something with the claim that all tribal leaders have been consulted when that is very clearly not the case.
Board Member Benavides. Thank you, Board Member Jackson.
Thank you, Chair Dominguez. I'm curious, and I apologize for putting y'all on the spot, but I'm curious if administration can give us a quick definitive answer on whether what's been proposed here is violating statute. I'm hearing that a lot, and I want to make sure that we are not doing that. And so information that's definitive would be very helpful right now.
We would have to take it through to legal to get that advice on it being if we're not following statute.
Okay. Okay. I really wish we had done that before so that we could know, but I understand that everybody's busy and that's probably not the process. So my apologies.
Correct. Typically the process is once we have the draft with input, then we bring it for legal review.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Blake.
So yes, I was going to say, I think that still can happen once we decide on a first read draft. And again, we have all of September, the rest of September, and we have all of October, well, half of October, to do that in preparation for a second read in November, hopefully with many things ironed out, with information from tribes as well, tribal leaders, as well as some understandings from the PED, Secretary Juanico, who, I mean, she didn't see anything egregious here. Board Member Benavides.
Thank you, Chair Dominguez. Okay, so just to clarify, we are only at this point evaluating changing the language to IH9 Indian Education, the PDF there provided, and we are not going to consider the other drafts that were provided. I just want to make that we are concentrating on one area so that we know how to move forward. And I would like it if we haven't decided on that to be able to do that. And if we're going to evaluate all three, that's fine. I just want to be clear on what stage of the process we're at.
So I think our the report that I read said, and I'm looking for it, said that we had three options. We could either create a brand new policy, we could modify or revise IH9, or do the governance manual. And the administration suggested IH9.
Okay,
And
so
so
is that what you're suggesting as well, Chair?
I'm suggesting we do that and just make some modifications to that second paragraph that mirror updated language. So I guess I need feedback from
23.
others about that. And again, I want to stress, this is high level language. All the details, the procedures, the board procedures get hashed out later down the road with tribal leaders' input and PED's guidance.
Okay, so I've already forgotten what you proposed for the second paragraph. So if we're going to go through this, yeah, I think we should
Okay.
start there, if you don't mind.
Okay, yes, I'll read it exactly as I am proposing. The Board of Education will foster sovereign to sovereign nation relationships with tribal leaders and maintain tribal consultation with tribal governments, such as the Navajo Nation, the 19 Pueblos, and the Apache Nation's tribal leaders or their designees, as well as pertinent indigenous urban leaders before approving proposed policies. Period. And then it would move on to this sovereign to sovereign nation relationship will foster an agreement between the tribes and it's kind of redundant. If I think we could just get this sovereign to sovereign relationship will foster an agreement between the tribes and Albuquerque Public Schools, Indian education policies and procedures in accordance with state and federal law. So we would keep that. That last sentence, the only thing we're changing is cooperative partnership becomes sovereign to sovereign nation relationship. Was that clear?
It's clear, but if anybody else is like me, I feel like I need to type it so that I can see it. I can't recall all of that information off the top of my head. I apologize. So
if the policy analyst maybe can share her screen, or did you catch all of that? I know that was kind of fast.
Kara, I did not catch all that, but hold on, let me pull up my let me pull up the document and we can work in the live document. Just a moment. Thanks for your patience, Chair. I'm almost there.
Words.
All right, I think I'm allowed to share my screen. Okay. Can somebody let me know if you all are looking at IH9 Indian education?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and you should see the green section that is the proposed amendment.
Correct.
That we already have. And okay, Chair, starting at the top, the very top of the paragraph right here, Board of Education Public Schools, are there any changes to this paragraph?
No.
Great. This one needs to be a
Will
SOP.
foster will foster a sovereign to sovereign nation relationship.
Yeah. I know I misspelled sovereign. Sorry, everybody. And we're going to take out cooperative partnership, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So then it reads sovereign to sovereign nation relations with tribal leaders and maintain tribal consultation instead of two-way communication.
Sorry, say that again. And maintain.
Tribal consultation and strike through two-way communication.
Okay.
With tribal governments.
Mm-hmm.
Such as, or i.e., and then I would copy, block and copy from the blue language or the green language down below the listing, Navajo Nation, right there, all the way to designees and probably indigenous urban leaders. And then copy and paste that into whose jurisdictional boundaries. We're going to strike through all that.
All the way to the period?
Yes. And then we're getting rid of, oh, I'll wait.
Was there anything you wanted to do on the sentence that reads, this cooperative partnership will foster an agreement between the tribes and Albuquerque Public Schools Indian education policies and procedures?
Yes. Strike through cooperative partnership and insert sovereign to sovereign nation relationship.
All right. All right.
So let me weigh in with, or check in with Board Member Tomarito. Board Member, is foster the right word? Will foster an agreement? It's been a few months since we talked to, and you know what? It's okay. It's a first read, so if you don't remember or unless you have something to add instead of. I almost feel like instead of agreement, it should read formal, meaningful, timely, and effective. Like we need to add those adjectives to agreements. Will foster, get rid of an in front of agreement and add
Sorry, Chair, where are you?
pardon me?
Where are you in the document?
Okay, so that last sentence that we're working on, the sovereign to sovereign relationship will foster and then get rid of an, and put in the 4 critical adjectives: formal, meaningful, timely, and effective. And then it would be agreements, plural. And that would be it. But I do have a question about that the very last paragraph after the revision, the draft. So the superintendent or designee can, I mean, the Board of Education also has to draft procedures that lay out tribal consultation processes. So does that need to be stated here? I mean, the superintendent and or her designee drafts the administrative implementation of this high-level language, but where do we fit in language that makes it clear that the Board of Education will draft appropriate procedures and processes with the guidance of PED and tribal leaders, tribal and urban leaders? Do we need to add that?
Chair Dominguez, the board doesn't do procedures. The board does policies. All procedures are done by administration. So there is no need for the board to create procedures.
Except, okay, so this is high level language. However, the actual process that we embark on has to be informed by tribal leaders. And that's what tribal consultation is in. That's exactly what the PED and tribal leaders and urban leaders are set to hash out, but it has to be with us. So
we already have procedures and they are listed in PJ 29.
And I would argue that those are procedures that have been framed by administration, necessarily so. Again, this is about tribes having more say in the implementation of this policy. So I'm just looking for guidance from the policy analyst. If we're going to add, I think we need to make it clear that those processes will be guided by how this tribal consultation gets implemented will be guided by PED and tribal and urban leaders.
Chair, we should definitely run this through a legal review, but my thoughts on it would be this. 2 things. 1, If PED has not released the rule on what the tribal consultation policies need to look like, I would recommend that we wait until we see that language from the PED. The second
Okay.
thing that I would say is that the IPP, which to me reads that this last paragraph is referencing the IPP, which is developed in consultation between the tribal leadership and Indian education and the district. So there is tribal input, but I would caution maybe getting too much in the weeds about language that impacts the IPP.
That's thank you, Ms. Martinez. That's what I was going to say. And I guess I got a little confused along the way with the procedures. Are you indicating that so as I read the policy, the board is directing the administration to do tribal consultation as outlined in law? Are you saying in this policy that the board is doing tribal consultation separate and apart than the administration?
Correct.
Full board. So would
Full
be,
board.
so I do agree with Ms. Martinez, we would have to get legal review on it just to make sure that we're not two entities. You know, we represent the school district. So if the board is doing its own tribal consultation separate and apart than the school district tribal consultation, I'm not sure if we're within our bounds to do that. And I'm not sure what that, does that mean all 7 members are expected to?
I don't know. And so I think you're right. We wait till PED provide some more guidance on that, and we figure that out. Just so that we're more of tribes want access to the table of power, to policy. So, and we represent that. We represent that policy making entity. So we'll leave it as is.
Okay, because I mean, if that's the case, you know, you could also have within the governance manual that 2 board members always have to attend tribal consultation, or so you could put some more guidance around when we do district tribal consultation that board members attend, or a certain number, you know, you could do it that way as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I said we're done with this. And so this is the recommendation for policy committee as a first read.
This one, the version that Ms. Martinez has?
Yes, yes. So is that helpful, Board Member Benavides?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Chair, if I may, I believe that we need to do a legal review on the questions that you have before we can post this publicly. It doesn't really help us much to post it, get the feedback, and only to find out that we maybe are not in compliance with statute. So I just want to bring that up.
Okay. And so I would like to be part of that conversation, and I would definitely want I think it would be important for me to know who is going to look at that, because we need legal expertise in this area.
And approve.
Well, Board Member Tomorito? Did you, I'm sorry, I thought did you say something?
I just said, and I forgot what I said. Sorry about that. I think I was talking to the dog that's on my lap.
Okay, so are we, next steps? are, is this, do we need agreement by acclamation or?
Chair, this is not an action item.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're all clear about the language and that we're clear and we know what next steps are. Okay.
Chair, you might want to just state for the committee kind of how you're wrapping it up, what the understanding is so that everybody knows.
Okay. So we have gone through edits. We've decided, first of all, that we are not going to, well, we are going to revise IH9 Indian Education to include the edits that were just discussed and to insert new language that was reviewed previously. And we will pass it through legal review, but I have requested a scholar or a legal scholar that is an expert in tribal consultation, because this is a new concept, but tribes are heavily invested in it. And I really want to make sure that we have a Native American voice guiding legal on this. And so, yeah, the next steps would be to have a second read in November. And in between, we will be attending the September 18th Parent Committee, Indian Parent Committee, Education Committee. And I would suggest that all of us attend if you're able to. And then October 6th, this will be presented to the government and I guess the tribal consultation that the district hosts. Is that correct?
I will work with Ms. Campos on that because typically, and see how we do it. Typically the tribal consultation are things that come from the tribe to us, but I'll work with her as she organizes this one to set aside time for that discussion. So we'll be in touch as soon as she works on that.
Thank you. Okay, I thought I saw a hand up, but if there are no more questions or comments, we're going to move on. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is a discussion of item 5.2, discussion of the rationale for revisions to board policy KC charter schools. And I just want to provide a quick quick introduction to this. First, I want to thank everyone who spoke tonight. I know the concerns shared come from a deep care for students, families, and schools. Thoughtful community engagement only strengthens our district, and I recognize that the board has not always met that standard. I, for one, learned that lesson clearly during the Taft right-sizing process, and I'm committed to ensuring that all voices are heard. Tonight, we're here to review Policy KC, which governs charter schools. This policy has not been updated in many years and no longer reflects current realities. Our responsibility as a board is to review and strengthen policies so that they align with the goals and guardrails we recently adopted. Goals designed to improve outcomes for all students, and I think that is a goal for charter schools as well. So it's to improve outcomes for all students in both traditional and charter schools. I want to be very clear. This agenda does not include closing any charter schools. Our work tonight is focused only on updating policy. We face real challenges, federal budget cuts, and the state's continued work to meet the Martinez-Yazzie decision, even as the state faces cuts. That makes it even more important that we are responsible stewards of resources, committed to equity, and clear in our role as authorizers of charter schools. This is not about undermining missions. It is about clarity, accountability, and partnership. Charters choose APS authorization because they expect high standards and collaboration. That requires a better informed board of education. It requires stronger communication with governance councils and policies the district can implement and promoting improving processes that promote clarity and policies that the district can implement effectively. I believe this is an opportunity, a challenge to face together. With creativity and collaboration, we can find positive solutions to the challenges I listed above. As I often say, hablando todo tiene solución. By talking with one another, we can find solutions that serve every student, because that's ultimately what we're after. And so with that, I open it up to discussion. Anybody?
Chair Dominguez, I do have my hand.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's
Yes,
okay.
board member, we can know you this.
Thank you. So first I want to acknowledge and thank the strong advocacy and everybody who came out for public comment. And I also want to acknowledge that I have, I think, 48 emails that I received yesterday and today in support of charter schools. And so I think that it's remarkable that there is so much support, and I want to thank everybody for their comments and for being such strong advocates for charter schools and public education in general. I want to also reiterate what you've said, Chair Dominguez, that this is just a conversation. And I had somebody call me earlier and they were really panicked and they said, "Why are you guys trying to get rid of charter schools?" And I said, "No, that's not what I'm here for. And I don't think that that is the intention of Chair Dominguez or the policy committee in general." And so when if we decide on something definitive, please, let's keep those things in mind, and mainly keep in mind that this is a benefit to our students and to our community, and we want to keep those partnerships.
Anybody else? I mean, I did provide some technical questions to ponder and to consider. And I appreciated Trey Smith for doing the homework. He actually answered some of these, which is illuminating. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. We don't spend enough time with governance councils, and frankly, we don't spend enough time with each applicant. So it's hard to, and I'll speak for myself, I feel ill-informed every time we're faced with contract renewals. It's never sufficient. So I wonder if we might start then with, what is the benefit to charters that apply for APS authorization over PEC authorization? And maybe somebody from the inside could help us with that.
Chair
Chair Dominguez, may I ask a question real quick?
Yes, yes.
So you brought forth some technical questions in the discussion rationale. I guess my question is what is the purpose of these technical questions? Is it to develop a new policy? Is it to explore? Is it to have a conversation? Because you know, these questions have been interpreted, I believe rightly so, as an attack on charters. And the policy that we have, policy KC, is directly pulled from charter law. This is law. This is, like, I will state again, the questions that you have posed are meant to cause fear in the charters. It's meant to you know, construct fair language for a moratorium. You know, I have hundreds of emails in support of charters. These technical questions, just as a discussion, have created fear within Albuquerque of our students who are our students. These are our APS students. And I do not understand why this is even being brought forth.
May I answer that question before you move on?
There's overwhelming support for charters, and I do not understand why we are causing fear amongst our students and our families.
Good question. Thank you. Board Member Benavides.
Thank you, Chair Dominguez. First of all, I want to challenge the assumption that having this conversation was done to cause fear amongst our community partners and amongst our students and our APS community. That is not the intention. And Chair Dominguez, please reiterate that that is not the intention.
That is not the
assume.
intention.
Well, I think that's the question. What is the intention?
Okay, so if I may, again, as I stated, we are facing federal cuts. We're going, over the next 3 years, there is going to be a tight budget. And so to talk about expanding charters in this district at a moment when we are right-sizing neighborhood schools is an imbalance that cannot, it's out of it. We can't talk about expansion, and I heard expansion a lot.
But is there expansion? I mean,
I heard expansion a lot.
Where?
And so I just want to make it during public comment. And so
but nothing's been brought forth to us.
Well, we did, the last 2 years, we did approve new to the district. I'm not talking about a moratorium on already existing charters. I'm talking about new to the district. We had 2 charters come before us, and it was never clear to me, and I wasn't alone, that we were approving new to the district charters, 2 of them. That's not okay. That's a breakdown between internal process and the board. So that needs to be addressed, but I thought it was important to signal that we cannot do that. My interest is to do charters, the charters that we have, we should do well. And not all of them, I would argue, we do not do well by all of them. Not all of them are facing the same success level that Ames does or that Coral does. And unfortunately, many of those that are not doing well have, and I'm going to use quotation marks around doing well, because there's an assessment problem that we need to look at. So this is about getting, we're holding traditional schools to account with goals and guardrails. And I don't think it's an imposition of any sort on charters to ask. First of all, it's not law that they have to come to APS for authorization. It is law that the state offer choice. So I want to clarify that. But if we're going to provide choice within the district, we need to do it well. And how do we navigate that together in collaboration with governance councils and CEOs and principals at those schools? I want to hear from them what the challenges are. Especially from those charter schools that have a high level of children with special needs. And oftentimes some charters push them out. That can't stand. And that happens often, too often. ELL students, why are we making charter schools report SAT scores on ELL students? That just seems like there's a disconnect there. So I'd like to revisit assessments. And by the way, CEOs and principals are in agreement. I'm getting these ideas from them. They don't understand. They don't think that SAT scores are the best measure of what their kids can do. And if we attend, even future-focused education conferences lift for consideration that, or encourage us to rethink how we do assessment. And so that has to somehow trickle up to us as an authorizer. So what I'd like to do is clarify the mission of charters within APS, and in particular, how are we going to do charters well, especially when the vast majority at some schools are Martinez Yazzie. We have to have some kind of alignment and understanding. Right now, I feel like I'm rubber stamping the application process, and that can't stand. 2 years ago, we had a workshop at the Rankin Center where we were able to have an exchange of ideas between board members and governance council members from the charters. Why did that stop? That should be instituted. We should have regular updates. And frankly, I think having to look at 11 applications is way too much. We should be looking at 5 and doing it well. So I think we're not doing things well. I want our charters to be supported and to do well. And so it's that intent. But certainly we cannot expand at this moment. We're facing serious cuts to our budget. So it would be fiscally irresponsible to even have that door open for more charters to be approved. That's my rationale. And I welcome feedback.
Yeah, I think you're verging very closely to getting the district sued. As I can't remember, Jim Nessel or something like that said, charter law is very specific. the role of the board within the law is very specific. We have the right to deny. We have the right to authorize. We do not have the right to dictate. We do not, have the right to declare about assessments. That's administrative. I will absolutely agree with you that that thing that we had at Rankin was awesome. Like, and I think that that is something that, we do yearly. I mean, I thought that was great. It brought us together. It was a great opportunity to have interactions. But that's not a policy issue. That's a process issue. That's something that Dr. Blakey, listening to us right now, says, oh, okay, I'm taking notes of what this policy committee is saying, and I'll talk to Dr. Escobedo about that. That's not what we write into policy. We as a board, we have the right to deny an application. We don't have the right to stall or not even allow the application to come forward. And
that's what this is about.
But that's what you just said. You don't want to expand. You said
Well,
you don't want to
no, but
expand.
that's different. That's a very different. We are not told by law that we have to take charter school.
Correct. We have the right to deny. We do not have the right to stop the application from coming forth.
Right.
So we have the right to deny, and that's in law already. So I think if the fear that has been caused is the language of how do we construct language that honors current contracts but allows the district to reduce the number? That is where the fear came from. And I think that we can improve processes, but we don't need to change the policy.
Let me rephrase this. When we had lost a couple of, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Blakey, we had lost a couple of charter schools. And then that created openings, and somehow we ended up approving 2 new charters to, I think it was Vos Collegiate and Ames, new to the district. And what I'm suggesting is that when we lose charters, we don't necessarily have to bring in charters, new applications to replace whatever we're losing by attrition. Again, it's in an effort to be fiscally responsible given the cuts that are coming down the line. And to expand is simply, should not be an option. If we lose charters, we should leave it at that until our policy better reflects the new reality. And the new reality is a decrease in budget and whatever demands Martinez-Yazzie next steps are going to require of the district. I think we need to be more intentional about those 2 things. So that is the point of revisions to KC charter schools at this moment. What is the strategy? And how are we going to reflect that strategy in policy? A strategy for this new reality. And so I'm welcome to feedback.
Chair Dominguez, may I make a comment?
Yes, sorry.
No, it's okay. It sounds like we're having a bit of a finance conversation. And so I think it would be helpful if we knew exactly what resources from
Mhm.
APS go to charter schools.
Okay, that's a great. Yeah,
I think
what
it's much
resources?
less than what we would suspect, but I think that that would be very helpful.
I agree.
Specific to your comment about federal cuts and how this is going to impact APS.
Mhm. Federal and state cuts. Because I mean, I know no one's saying that, but we do have unfunded mandates still that we're dealing with. And maybe that's the question. How will federal cuts and state unfunded mandates impact the budget? And then two, how are we honoring the dictates of Martinez Yazzie? And how does that impact the contracts with charters? Now, I have read the laws on the PEC website and what is expected of schools, and I'm not demanding anything that isn't on there. They talk about at-risk kids. How does a charter address that population? That's struck me as an interesting threshold for them to meet. I'm not convinced that all our charters are doing their part. But I mean, is there a reason for that? Is there a good reason? It's an opportunity to explore that. Are there any other questions that we would like our superintendent to address?
I'm sorry, Chair, are you asking me these questions?
Well, I think it's important that the administration, yes, provide us with answers to these questions, because the answers are going to help us formulate a strategy for or a policy where we can express the strategy that we're going to have for charter schools in APS. And it's not, go ahead.
And just for clarification, you're asking questions that you'll send us to answer. You're not asking me to answer the questions right now?
Well, you could. I think we did discuss some of these, right? Like, I don't want to put you on the spot. So feel free to answer any one of these that you feel comfortable doing. So I think we talked about what is the benefit to a charter that applies for APS authorization. I did hear an answer to that, a community of support. But I find that interesting because not all charters feel so supported. So I'm curious. I want to explore that further. What disadvantages are there to being authorized by the Public Education Commission from your standpoint? I heard that, again, it's more about being part of a community, connected to a community. But I'd like to delve into that a little bit more. What's the benefit to APS to authorize charters that apply to us for authorization over the PEC or PED? And also, what are the challenges? I mean, we need to be honest about the challenges that we're facing. And I want to hear from charter schools. What are their challenges? I mean, I've heard some. And I'll tell you, and I don't disagree with them. They, especially those schools that have a large population of Martinez, Yazzie groups, having them take an SAT assessment and to measure their success, the charter success on the SAT, there's a disconnect there. And so what other avenues are there for, I mean, I think it speaks to what other avenues are there for a quality assessment of whether or not a charter deserves reauthorization. Because I don't feel good about rubber stamping a school that has a 2% score in math. Is that an accurate representation of what students know? I don't believe so, especially if it comes to Martinez and Yazzie kids. So all this has implications for revising a policy that accurately expresses a strategy about how this district is going to, what purpose charters will serve in this district, given our goals and guardrails. And by the way, you know, in my conversation with CEOs and principals, they don't necessarily take offense to, everybody wants their kid to read. Everybody wants their kid to do math. Everybody wants their kid to be ready for post-secondary opportunities. And everybody wants kids to have a sense of belonging. So we're not imposing anything that is out of line with the mission of most charters. So Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. Since we're kind of having conversations with Dr. Blakey, so Dr. Blakey, I guess my question to you is, do you feel that a revision to this policy is necessary? And before you answer that, it's also kind of in the context of, in our board governance manual, it's the superintendent who brings us opportunities for shifts or changes when necessary. So given your knowledge of the district, your knowledge of the finances, your knowledge of charter school authorization, the district, the department, is a revision to board policy KC necessary?
Chair and Member Jackson, I think that, you know, with charter schools, the New Mexico Charter Schools Act really governs what the authorizer is and isn't able to do. So I feel like that kind of supersedes the policy because it is pretty strict in how the performance contract that the schools bring forward that's connected to the mission of their school really guides the authorizer in what the work of that school is. So I think between like the policy and the Charter Schools Act, there is little like leeway among, I haven't heard of us having a specific number of charters in our portfolio. But I certainly could talk more to Dr. Escobedo about that. But I don't know of like that it has to be a specific, if one leaves, one comes. I haven't heard about anything like that other than like, you know, we want to make sure that Dr. Escobedo doesn't feel overwhelmed with the level of, because he does a pretty good job in the work that he's been doing with the schools, that you don't want to overwhelm him with the number of schools. But I don't know about we don't have a specific quota or anything like that with the number of charter schools. We do get 2% of their budget that comes back to the authorizer. So I think there was a question about what is the benefit, but the monetary benefit is a charter. The 2% either goes to the Public Education Commission if it's a state charter, or it goes to the school district if it's a local school board that authorizes it.
Thanks, Dr. Blakey. So I think just the last thing that I will say on this is that I don't believe that a new policy is necessary. I will unequivocally state that charter schools are public schools, and I am thrilled that these families and students are part of the APS family. I'm thrilled that we had 2 new charters come in, bringing with them strong academics and new opportunities for our students. And I think that we are running the risk of overstepping our boundaries. And like I said, I think we have, whether intentional or not, have created fear and apprehension with 20% of our APS students and families and administrators. Hopefully it was not done intentionally, but based on the amount of emails that I received and phone calls, I think that there was fear. And so I do not support a revision to a policy. I think that Dr. Escobedo has done a great job. I think, are there some maybe procedures that could be updated? Yes, but that is a conversation of the superintendent and her departments, and the policy as it is right now, I think, is sufficient. And so that is my comment.
Anybody else?
I will just state real quick that after hearing all your reasoning, Board Member Dominguez, I do agree with a lot of it. I just don't feel strongly that this policy is where those specific processes need to be put. I do believe that we need a training on charter school and potentially better communications with governing councils. I think that would be amazing. I also speak to my charter school EDs, principals, and staff, and they all have the same goal, which is to work with the district better and to find a way that we can really sit down and figure out how we can become like one. I know many of the charters have already adopted the goals and guardrails. A lot of them already come to Mr. Escobedo for guidance and ask board members for guidance. So I do see a line of communication already open. And I want to make sure that that continues to grow. I do understand your concern for expanding charters and making sure that we put first our APS public schools. But I don't see the fit of everything you presented into this specific policy.
Thank you, Board Member Estordo Ramos. I'd like to read the KC Charter School policy. It's not very long. It's only 2 significant paragraphs long. The last time this was revised was in 2016. There's no mention of goals and guardrails. And, you know, we make such a big deal out of the goals and guardrails. This is like a framework that has taken up so much conversation and effort. There's no mention of Martinez Yazzie, but here it is. The Board of Education may approve the establishment of a charter school within the Albuquerque Public Schools District. APS shall review all applications for locally authorized charter schools. The Board of Education reserves the right to deny an application for a charter school. The Board of Education reserves the right to suspend or revoke the charter of a locally authorized charter school. However, there are more details behind that. It's a high standard that we have to meet. Albuquerque APS shall establish a process for application submissions, review, and approval or denial. I think that needs to be further elaborated upon. What's the strategy given the new goals and guardrails and Martinez Yazzie? All contracts negotiated between the Albuquerque APS and a locally authorized charter school shall include the requirements outlined in Charter Schools Procedural Directive. The Board of Education shall deny the authorization or reauthorization of a locally authorized charter school if the requirements outlined in the Charter Schools Procedural Directive are not agreed upon and approved by both parties. This reads more like a procedural thing than it does high-level language. There's no, like, what is the goal of having charters? I think one goal is to give families choice. I kept hearing that tonight. And where do Martinez and Yazzie kids fit in that? Where's the commitment from the board to requiring or requesting minimally that charters abide by the vision and the values? I mean, we say we have this vision and values. Where is that stated here? Nowhere. So right now it's carte blanche. Everything is kind of, I don't see enough guidance for the process of approving charters. I don't, it's all procedural. And I guess we don't have a North Star on charters. And I think we need to articulate that North Star. And that's what I'm suggesting the next steps are. Yes, Board Member Heather Benavides.
Thank you, Chair Dominguez. And so you just said it. I'm just going to state it really quickly. So what I'm hearing is the goal for this discussion isn't necessarily to get rid of charter schools or to make it harder for charter schools to become a part of APS, but more to align our policy with the goals and guardrails that our district has adopted and what we are working towards and honestly achieving. So does that sort of sum up kind of your overarching goal here?
Yes, yes. And specifically, the mention of Martinez Yazzie, which our first two goals do, but I want to add that language to KC because we don't know if the next iteration of the goals are going to have Martinez and Yazzie reference to it. But I think, yes, those are the two elements that I'm interested in integrating. Member Tomori, Member Astorga Ramos.
Yes, thank you, Chair Dominguez, and for that clarification and what specifics you would like to be added. I really would want, and I'm suggesting for administration to help put together a conversation with Mr. Joseph Escobedo and the board members so that for one, can get a better understanding of the entire process of authorization for charter schools, because the language that you are proposing would just align, right, this policy with the rest of our goals and guardrails, which is fine. But I really want to know more before I agree with anything or vote or anything of how the authorization works. so that we can further have these discussions.
Thank you. Member Tomorito, do you have anything to add?
I do understand, that we do need a line, just as Board Member Sturga said, with the goals and the guardrails, but also with Martinez and Yazi. I do know when we did have the review of the applicants for the last number of schools that applied, it wasn't clear, especially to us who were trying to figure out the whole process. But I think that whether or not we decide to have that training and the conversations with the charter school department, that would help iron out some of these areas of concern. And I do know that I think also with families of charter, they don't really understand the process and what their governing boards do. And I can only say that because I get emails from different charters that have concern about bullying, about a teacher, about something that's going on in the school, but often asking the question, did you go to your governing board? I think the process is not understood, and I'm sure some parents do understand it, but I think the whole even finances, because many parents want to ask us to build them a gym, to get them this, to get them that. So I really think that this whole process of charters and even parents understanding how that works for them and how their governing board should work for them. My other concern, and many times, is just purely special education. I knew that there are various degrees of not following federal law and IDEA because of staffing and even the lack of really making sure they were being more accountable. But I'm just bringing that as a topic of concern. And I'm sure that is for their governing boards on how they handle that, but it is a big factor when we are addressing the needs of kids with disabilities, because many times within the charter school environment, they will say to a parent when a kid with a disability comes that they can't service that kid. And then they become a behavioral problem. And then they become 3 strikes, you're out, and then those kids have to go back to public school. And for the amount of money that goes to charter schools, it's a question of, are we really truly serving kids with disabilities? And that needs to be addressed. And I don't know if that's with Joseph and with his staff, because I do know we do help within special education, but I do know sometimes kids fall through the cracks, and it is a big concern. But yeah, and those are some of my areas, and I just feel right now community needs to be more informed about how charter schools work and their voice and how they need to use that within their governing board, because they do come to us with very concerning issues. So anyway, I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Tomorito. Board Member Jackson.
Thank you. So it sounds to me like maybe the conversation is veering more towards information that board members that we need to have, like the understanding of the policies, the governance to governance interaction, the how we can help, how we can assist, how we can be a partner with the charter schools more so than changing policy language. And so maybe that is something that Dr. Blakey or Dr. Escobedo can can assist with before we move forward with policy language. As far as policy language specifically is concerned, we are all advocates for the goals and the guardrails and for our, Yazzie Martinez students. However, we cannot legally, we can't insist that charters we can't require the goals and the guardrails, and we can't prescribe the makeup of the students. That is all random. And so we can't put into policy that it has to be a certain group, or that they have to follow the goals and guardrails, because they have their own missions and they are autonomous. So we need to be really careful about putting language like that into any sort of policy. The place where we have where we, and I mean we as the district, have the ability to guide is through the performance contract. And that contract is negotiated and then is brought forth to the Board of Education. And that is where we can have discussions as to what their goals are and what their guardrails are. But we, as an authorizer, cannot place our goals and guardrails onto an autonomous entity.
Thank you, Board Member Jackson. I do encourage all of you to visit the PEC website, because they make it very clear. The whole state is talking about at-risk populations. So the state imposes that on PEC authorized schools. And so I strongly encourage you to go read that language, because we are not imposing anything that isn't already being asked of charters. Perhaps you're correct that how it gets expressed in the contract, we probably need more guidance about that from legal, how we can achieve a more strategic expression of authorization. I'm going to, if I may, I'd like to see something like this possible policy language. The district will provide the board a charter school strategy and timeline of processes and approval deadlines that reflect a commitment to student outcomes based on the goals and guardrails. The strategy must address the budgetary and resource capacity of the district to justify the purpose for district authorized charter schools. But I do also think we need, provided the district has the aforementioned strategy in place, the board will approve existing district authorized charter school contract renewals only after the district and such charters prove adherence to having followed proper processes and deadlines, which we come close to doing, but not entirely. So that's where process comes in. But again, there are two concerns. Budget cuts and how we will be fiscally responsible, and two, goals and guardrails and Martinez-Yazzie particularly. So I'm happy to, if you have ideas for language, I certainly have some ideas already written up. I think the next step is to field suggested language. And again, I would encourage you to visit the PEC website to inform yourself about what's required. If the PEC can require it, we most certainly can. And so, yes, unless we have more to add to that, I'd like to bring the discussion to an end with the request that you all submit some suggested language around a strategy for a strategy that guides the Board of Education in approving charters. What is the role of charters in our district? So, and so let me find my agenda for the rest of the meeting. Oh, right here. So for the board, so may I go on? So item number 6 is the chair report. And the talking points here are the tribal consultation policy will be posted to the website for a 30-day public review after, oh, no, do I have? I'm sorry, I thought Dr. Blakey had her hand up. And we'll return to the after legal consultation with an expert in Indian law and tribal consultation specifically, and we'll return to the policy committee for a second read at the November policy committee meeting. The October policy committee meeting will include consideration of revisions to the charter school policy. And I'd like to close with this in mind. Again, I want to thank everybody who shared their perspectives tonight on charter schools. And Board Member Benavides, please. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, Chair Dominguez. I just wanted to acknowledge that the next policy committee meeting, it says September 8th, 2025 at 5:15. Obviously, that's incorrect. And so I apologize for not seeing that before we accepted the agenda. When is the next policy committee meeting?
October 6th.
Okay. Thank you.
And thank you for catching that policy, or excuse me, agenda approval without correcting that. Again, what I heard comes from the passion I heard tonight comes from a deep commitment to students, families, and schools. I want to remind us that tonight's work is about reviewing and strengthening a policy, not closing schools. As a board, our responsibility is to improve outcomes for all students, to follow the law, and to ensure resources are used equitably. That takes clarity, accountability, and partnership. We may not agree on every detail, but we all share the same goal, and that's helping our students succeed. By continuing to talk and work together, I believe we can find solutions that serve every child in our community. And I will continue to have conversations with charter school leaders who offer productive conversations and guidance. That's my commitment. And I believe we clarified that the next policy committee meeting is October 6th at 5:15 virtually, and you may watch on the APS Board of Education YouTube channel. And with that, this meeting has come to an end. I adjourn the meeting. Thank you for your patience tonight.
Thank you.